Gotham, this is your only warning.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I've just finished Arkham Knight and all its DLC, so in turn I finished the entire Arkham series. I want to give my thoughts on it, rank all of the games, then in another video rank all of the boss fights in the series before moving on to our next game.
This is how it happened. This is how the Batman died.
Starting things off with what might be considered one of the weakest aspects of Batman Arkham Knight, which is its story. Arkham Knight's story is all about Batman's fears. Mostly his fear of failure, represented with his past failures and the prospect of future failures. This is done mostly through three characters: the Scarecrow and his fear toxin, the Arkham Knight and his mysterious relationship with Batman, and the Joker, who died at the end of Arkham City but still exists within Batman's infected blood. Now, of course, the Scarecrow is always around whenever anything has to do with fear, and with a load of fear gas throughout the game, tends to focus on Batman's future failures, trying to plunge Gotham City into chaos to show Batman that he failed and he failed Gotham. The Joker also does this in a different way by trying to get Batman to snap, go over the edge and start killing people, starting with himself in his own psyche, and also kind of reminding him that he did kind of let the Joker die in Arkham City, although it was more the Joker, accidentally killed himself. But there's probably some, guilt there in Batman. And then the Joker also reminds him of the time that he put Oracle in a wheelchair, which, Batman might be a bit guilty about, feel like he could have put Joker away and avoid that happening, and about the death of the second Robin, Jason Todd. But turns out Jason didn't die, because Jason never dies. He comes back in the comics, he comes back in the games. Because Jason Todd is in fact the Arkham Knight. And this is how Jason represents Bruce's past failures the most. He's tormenting him throughout the entire game. Eventually Batman has some visions of what happened in the abandoned wing of Arkham Asylum where he was tortured, and then eventually they come face to face, and Jason's as angry as ever. He was always angry before, but he was a bit more angry after presumably being announced dead. I'm not entirely sure in this universe if he actually died and got resurrected through Ra's al Ghul and the Lazarus Pit, or if he just didn't die in the first place. Don't really know, but he's a bit upset that Batman moved on and went for a new Robin. And obviously, Jason Todd kind of tops the list of Batman's failures. Letting a kid die, kind of probably one of the worst things which could happen. On top of all of this, Batman's allies are kind of turning him against him. Jim Gordon finds out that Batman was using Barbara as one of his allies, and then she gets kidnapped, so Jim gets pissed off, he betrays you, and then Robin doesn't betray you, but you betray him, actually, which was kind of interesting. Maybe a bit of paranoia going on, mostly of fear gas, but then eventually, obviously, everyone comes together, they come back onto the same side. Even Jason gets a bit of redemption, and Batman overcomes the fear toxin to beat Scarecrow. All in all, it's a happy ending for everyone. Batman makes his way back to the manor, says hi to Alfred, and then blows up. Likely similar to how in The Dark Knight Rises, Bruce faces death. This seems to be a ploy by Bruce to get rid of Batman and Bruce Wayne. At the end, we do see a Batman-like figure, but it's a lot more terrifying and seems to employ some of the fear toxin that Scarecrow was using. I'm not 100% sure what this means, especially what it means for the future, because obviously the next game in this universe is Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Whether this will mean anything, we don't even know if Batman will be in that game. We've seen the Batmobile, but not Batman in any of the trailers yet, so I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Overall, I don't think that the story's really that bad. It could be a nice character-driven story. I think where it falters the most, though, is with Jason Todd. And this mostly isn't Arkham Knight's fault in general. There's two issues. One was that all the developers and everything were saying before the game came out, the Arkham Knight is a brand new character, and they specifically went, it's definitely not Jason Todd. And then it came out and it was Jason Todd. The Arkham Knight is basically just Red Hood but with more resources. Kind of felt a bit annoying. It would have been nice even if they just kept with the, like, technically it's a new character, because yes, technically it is, and they just ignored anyone saying if it's Jason Todd or not, like, oh, who knows or whatever. But it was a bit disappointing. On top of that, the second problem is this is a great emotional point for Batman, but for the player, we haven't seen Jason Todd in any of the previous games. And it's not like this wouldn't have been possible, because in the comics, Jason Todd was teased back in 2002's Hush, and then was properly resurrected in 2005's Under the Red Hood, way before even Arkham Asylum came out. And I think that's like, what, 9 years before Arkham Knight came out? Jason could have had at least a mention or something in one of the previous games, just to build him up a bit, so we kind of get a bit of a attachment to Jason, so that way the player can kind of realize this emotional connection a bit more, instead of just dumping all of the information about Jason Todd's death in a flashback in the middle of the game, which also kind of just gives away that the Arkham Knight's Jason Todd anyway. I feel like if Jason was handled better, the story would have also been received better. With the gameplay, I don't have much to say about the combat. It's the best it's ever been. The system's as in depth as it was ever going to be. There's more additions which are just good quality of life changes, like being able to pick people up off the floor instead of just leaving them there waiting for them to get back up, or having to do a ground takedown, which could be risky when there's a bunch of other thugs around. The two biggest additions, though, really, were the changes to stealth and the addition of the Batmobile. Stealth got given a fear takedown, which was so good. It made so many Predator sections just that bit more bearable. You didn't have to wait for people to have to split up. You could take up to 6 people, I think. It was 5 or 6 out at once if they're all within line of sight. And then to keep it from being too overpowered, you have to go get a silent takedown to recharge it. Which, you know, is more of a... it has to be a gameplay kind of thing. It doesn't make sense with it in the actual universe, but to keep you from just fear takedowning everyone, it needed to be there. You could even cheese it a bit for combat encounters by just throwing a smoke bomb at first and then taking out like half of the guys. It is a great addition. Then on top of that, you got the voice command gadget and the best disruptor in the game. Stealth just got given a lot of quality of life changes, which improved it a bunch. Now, the Batmobile is probably the other most controversial part about this game. Some people love it, some people hate it. Most people, I think, fall in the middle, where it's a fairly good addition. It's nice for traversal especially, and the combat sections are fun, but they're just a bit too often. Batmobile is used for a load of combat sections, a load of puzzle sections, and it can get a bit annoying. I definitely feel like in the main story, it's fine, but when it comes to the side missions added in as well, it gets too much. All of the bombs in Campaign for Disarmament, way too many combat fights in that. You can get up to like 40 drones in one of those side missions, and there's like 10 of them spread around. That's just because some of the side missions in Arkham Knight, there's just way too much of it. Like, you could cut down this by like a half, and it would still probably be like way too much to do. And then a lot of the Riddler challenges involved using the COWL, which could be a bit annoying. But overall, I feel like the Batmobile was a good choice. That, with giving the grappling hook boost some more options, like you could upgrade it in the skill tree, just allowed you to traverse these 3 islands of Gotham really smoothly, and you could go really bloody fast. Hell, you could probably go from one end to the other faster than you could go from one end to the other in Arkham City, even though the map's huge in comparison. Overall, though, the combat and the stealth is definitely the best in the series. For side missions, I included the Season of Infamy DLC side missions, and I just want a quick rundown of where I'd rank them and a little bit of a reasoning why. Tied 15th, we have all of the militia side missions: Armored and Dangerous, Occupy Gotham, Campaign for Disarmament, and Own the Roads. They're all very tedious, take way too long, and culminate in a very, very bad boss fight. And Campaign for Disarmament, I can't say that word right, by far the worst. 14, I've got Lamb to the Slaughter. It's not bad, it's just one fight though, and who even knows who Deacon Blackfire is? Who cares about Deacon Blackfire? 13, I've got Gotham on Fire. It's not that bad, it's just repetitive. It's a good thing that it's only like 3 of them, I think. You only have to do it 3 times. If it was more, it would be way worse. 12, got Line of Duty. It's basically City's acts of violence, but actual fights. You're not just fighting one guy, you've got to fight with a bunch of dudes. Its only problem, really, is that there's way too many fights. Because it's got a nice conspiracy going with a nice resolution, but there's like 12 firefighters, maybe even more than that. 11, we've got A Friend in Need. It's mostly just brought down because of how short it is. It's a nice conclusion to Hush's storyline, and it works well with the little fake out that Bruce Wayne showing up in Wayne Tower isn't actually Bruce Wayne, that was Hush, and then you show up as Batman. 10, we've got Gunrunner. It's fun fighting the Penguin, especially with Nightwing. The worst part about it is just following all the trucks. It takes way too long, and sometimes the truck is right next to a base, and you just have to go around the entire island for it to come all the way back to where it was. 9, we've got Creature of the Night. It is fairly repetitive, and it's mostly just memorable because of that one jump scare, but that jump scare does push it up to number 9 in my opinion. At 8, we've got Heir to the COWL. I like this because it's a nice challenge. You have to actually perfect all of the combat encounters, but they're not too difficult. It's only like half a dozen guys max, and then you get to unravel the mystery of Azrael, and you get a choice at the end, which was a decent choice. You can choose if he actually sides with Batman or if he becomes a villain, basically. 7, we got the DLC mission Wonderland. This is mostly saved by its final part fighting in the book. Everything else about it was just boring and tedious, but Mad Hatter always has style, and style pushes stuff up for me. 6, we got another DLC side mission, Beneath the Surface. This is the one where you fight Killer Croc. It's fairly short. It has to be artificially lengthened by having to get you out of the ship to go collect some key cards and then go back in. And the actual fight with Croc isn't that tough, but it's fun fighting him with Nightwing. And there's a nice bit of depth to the story with how the Warden is just a corrupt piece of shit. Number 5, we've got Riddler's Revenge. The puzzle dedicated to the side mission is what pushes it up the most. The one's in the orphanage for me. Otherwise, most of the puzzles are fairly run-of-the-mill for the Arkham series. Obviously, a bit too much Batmobile. The race courses especially, like, they're a bit lackluster. But I enjoy the Riddler side missions a lot in these games, and the boss fight at the end was by far the best payout for any Riddler side mission. 4, we got another DLC side mission, In From the Cold. It's a nice end to Mr. Freeze's character, a very tragic one who kind of accepts that his wife's gonna die. It's mostly brought down a little bit by the fact that it is just a Predator section and a drone combat section, so it's not that engaging really, but it is fun, and it adds snow to the city, so it's the last thing you do then the city's snowing, which is nice. 3, we have Two-Face Bandit. This is a perfect length. It's just like 3 banks, and it's got a unique addition to stealth with the fact that there's a bank alarm going on at first, so you could do loud takedowns and no one notices. But then, you know, if you take down enough people, they lock it down, they turn off the alarm, and it turns into a normal stealth section. It is brought down a little bit by the fact that Two-Face just ends up being a normal thug, so it's not really much of a boss fight. 2, we got The Perfect Crime. This is just great. It is, may I say, perfect. It's very disturbing. I like the detective mode parts where you have to look at all of the victims, try and find some connection. Obviously, you don't find a connection. It's mostly Alfred who does it for you. But the fact that Professor Pig is just such a disturbing character. The Dollatrons are very unique. You have to actually, like, properly put them down. So you either have to use a combo takedown or a ground takedown is nice. And then you have to deal with Professor Pig at the same time. And once again, he's just a creepy dude, which just brings it up a bit more. Finally, at number 1, we've got another DLC mission, Shadow War. This is what feels like the most like a traditional side mission. You go to plenty of different places, and it's got a nice, decent length. It's not too long, but it's not too short. And it also does the best out of maybe any media in general of challenging Batman's no-kill rule without simply just going, oh, if you don't kill this guy, he will kill some people. It's like, with Raish, it's like, is not letting him resurrect actually killing him? Nice little moral quandary. Overall, I do think there's too many side missions in Arkham Knight which are either too tedious or have gone on for way too long, which, you know, just makes them too tedious anyway, or just a bit too lackluster. Like the Deacon Blackfire, just one mission. But then on the other end, you've got some where it's like, you know, you got to go to some like 10 bombs, take out like 10 watchtowers. You didn't need that many. When it comes to boss fights, I ignored some of the wiki definitions for boss fights. Like the militia APCs, I don't count them. The Officer in Mad Hatter's book, no. I also didn't include Killer Croc from the Iceberg Lounge challenge map because I haven't played that, so I'm not going to put him in there. He's probably just the same as he is in the side mission, but I don't know. So right at the bottom, at number 15, we've obviously got Deathstroke. It's a rip-off of an earlier boss fight, but worse, and is also way worse than the Arkham Origins Deathstroke fight. It's complete disappointment. Deathstroke just felt like he was thrown in there because it's like, oh shit, when the Arkham Knight's gone, we're going to need someone else to head the militia. Number 14, you got Firefly. You literally just chase him around for a couple of minutes, but the best part about it really is that you only have to do it like 3 times. If you have to do it more than that, it might even be worse than Deathstroke in my opinion. Number 13, we've got Two-Face. His side mission is what saves him. He's just a normal thug. You can take him out in Predator as you do anyone else. It's really not that tough. When I did it, I took out nearly everyone with 1 escalator. 12 and 11, we've got Nightwing and Black Mask from the Harley Quinn and Red Hood DLCs. These are mostly just beefier thugs and barely constituted boss fights. You just gotta deal with them when you deal with everyone else. Nightwing's just a stick, like electric stick thug, and the Black Mask has, you know, a unique attack with a gun, but then you could just shoot him back as a Red Hood, so not that big of a deal. At number 10, I've got the Cloudburst. It's fairly unique at first, but it's still pretty bad. It's mostly just Cobra tanks followed by what is basically a bigger Cobra tank, and then you just shoot it a bunch. I do think what brings it down the most is that retroactively, the Deathstroke fight makes it even worse because it's just done again, so you hate it even more. At 9 and 8, we've got Albert King and Killer Croc. They're basically the same. They're both big brutes that you've got to use the tag team functionality on. I put Killer Croc over at Albert King a bit more because he's Killer Croc, so, you know, why not? At number 7, we've got the Riddler, who also takes advantage of the tag team system, but for a different reasoning. The robots around him have to be taken out by one of each character, so Batman has to focus on one color while Catwoman focuses on the other. The actual Riddler mech, you just jump on him, beat him a couple of times. It's mostly the robots around him. Number 6, I've got Arkham Knight's Drill. It is the most unique Batmobile fight, I think. It's not the best, but the fact that it focuses on its traversal instead of combat capabilities is what brings it up so much for me. Number 5, I've got the Joker and Harley Quinn. This is another tag team fight, but this time it's 2-on-2, although it's not really, because it's more like 2-on-12, because both Harley and Joker have a bunch of thugs around them. But it's fun. It's just fun dealing with them, and the fact that they have their old school classic costumes is a nice touch. At number 4, I've got Arkham Knight's Chopper. It is basically just one of the flying drones later in the game, but stronger, and with beefier attacks, really. It can be quite a difficult fight earlier on, and can be very overwhelming, but I like the fact that it actually has some unique attacks, and it telegraphs them like an actual boss would. Number 3, I've got the Joker sequence near the end of the game. This isn't even really a boss fight, and it's mostly just style over substance, but the wiki counts it, so I'm gonna count it, and it's a good set piece to finish off the game. Number 2, I've got the Professor Pig fight. This is mostly because of the Dollartrons and their uniqueness, but the whole creepy factor of Professor Pig, the fact that you got to deal with him at the same time as well, is interesting, and quite frankly, there's not a lot of great boss fights in Arkham Knight. Number 1 is the Predator section with the Arkham Knight. This isn't anything really revolutionary, it's mostly just a series of normal Predator encounters. What I like about it the most is it manages to split a Predator fight into phases without having you just knock down the guy and then zip away and wait for everyone to move away and be like, okay, he's gonna go somewhere else, and then we fight him. Instead, you jump up, you take out Jason, then he disappears, so then you have to go to another section. It's functionally the same thing, but this way you kind of get to stay in stealth the whole time without giving yourself away and then just having to wait for things to reset. Overall, the boss fights are weaker than usual in Arkham Knight, but there are some that do shine. I do think that the Arkham Knight drill fight does shine for me quite a bit, even though it isn't near the top, like it isn't top 3 or anything, just its uniqueness kind of shines through. It just is mostly a lot of waiting around, which is a bit unfortunate. Finally, I'm going to rank all of the DLCs in Arkham Knight, not counting Scarecrow's Nightmare, the skins, or any of the challenge packs. And right at the bottom, we got a number 7, Assault on GCPD. It's too short. It's all like areas you've been to. Technically, the first part you haven't been to, but it's just one of the Penguin warehouses reskinned. And it's three very short combat encounters, I think. Yeah. And 1 Predator encounter, so it's more encounters than some of the other DLC missions, but it just feels shorter in general. And I feel like Nightwing could have had something better than just stopping Penguin from busting out of GCPD, really. Number 6, I've got Catwoman's Revenge. It's fairly short. You start off with basically the pickpocketing thing from Arkham City, which is nice. You've got a nice little puzzle. Mostly, this is a good DLC, and it involves Catwoman getting revenge on Riddler for what he did during the main game. What brings it back is how annoying the last fight is with the electrified floors, and if you don't know to keep your combo meter up the whole time to get extra damage, then you'll be stuck on such a small platform with all these lasers, and you'll constantly be getting stuck on electrified panels, and it will just become impossible and extremely annoying. It took me about 30 minutes before I looked online, and it's like, oh, just keep your combo meter up. Not really well thought out, in my opinion, and if that wasn't there, or you had some more health or something, it would be much better. At number 5, I've got Robin's DLC, Flip of a Coin. It's just alright mostly. It's not that memorable. It's just Two-Face's escaped. Go find him. Beat him up, really. Decent encounters along the way. Just nothing really special. You get a little bit more insight into Tim and Barbara after they've gotten married, but there's not much to it. Number 4, I've got Red Hood's DLC. Once again, quite short. 2 combat encounters and a Predator encounter. It's mostly put up by Red Hood's uniqueness, so how like the Predator encounter, you can just shoot people, and it's funny. That's what I mostly like about this DLC. Number 3, I've got Harley Quinn. Once again, it's mostly her play style, which is unique. She can't do proper stealth, so she can only do loud takedowns, and it feels a bit longer than Red Hood's and most of the other DLCs, so that's why I'm putting it up this high. I do find it weird that she could beat Nightwing on her own, but hey. Number 2, we've got Season of Infamy. 4 solid side missions. You know, I ranked them all fairly high. Wonderland's definitely the worst, but, you know, Shadow War and In From the Cold are definitely 2 great side missions which stand out. And finally, at number 1, we've got Matter of Family, Batgirl's DLC. This is the longest and easily the best. It's what feels like an actual DLC out of all of the Arkham episodes. And really, if I have to recommend the Season Pass to anyone, I'd say get it on sale like I did. Because A Matter of Family, Season of Infamy, definitely worth it. And then you get a whole bunch of skins and everything. Everything else, you can play if you want to or ignore it. It doesn't matter that much. But those 2 and all the skins and stuff does make the Season Pass worth it. As long as, you know, you can get it on sale. If you want to play the other Arkham episodes, then I think the season pass at its default price is also worth it, just of the sheer amount of content you get.
What are you doing? Evening the odds.
In conclusion, Batman Arkham Knight does stumble at points. Its story isn't the greatest, some of its boss fights are a bit shit, and some of the side missions go on for way too long. But then, you know, you can just ignore some of the side missions, to be honest, and some of the boss fights, like the really bad ones, are tied to the side missions. So if you're not too bothered by getting 100%, just going through the story and doing a select couple of side missions is fine. And to be honest, the graphics, the in-depth gameplay for combat and stealth are by far the best, and it's what really brings up Arkham Knight for me. And it is why Arkham Knight is my favourite to play in the series, but I do have to admit that it's not the best. I do give Arkham Knight a 4 out of 5, and in my rankings I go right at the bottom's Arkham Origins, then Arkham Asylum, Arkham Knight, and up the top, Arkham City is by far the best. It's got the best overall gameplay, story, bosses, and everything. It's the most consistent package, in my opinion. Let me know your opinions on Arkham Knight and the Arkham series as a whole in the comments. You could let me know about some points that I failed to consider or I just completely missed. And I'll see you guys next time.